Hey guys, what is up? This is Matt. Today's me once again. I know I'm reviewing this movie in the car in the dark, but I don't feel like going inside right now because I don't want to have to deal with the dogs barking and stuff. But anyway, this is going to be another movie review, aka After I Saw, and this time it is going to be on Thor: Love and Thunder. Once again, directed by Taika Waititi, director of the last movie and Jojo Rabbit, two fantastic movies and other stuff. And he's an actor as well in other movies. But in this film, Thor comes out of retirement after we got to see him completely gain weight. He gets his full body build back, and he comes out of retirement when a man named Gore captures a bunch of kids for something dark. And he gets allies such as King Valkyrie, I think that's what her name is, and Korg, who was also played by Taika Waititi, and Jane Foster. That's right, Thor's ex-girlfriend comes back as the Mighty Thor, otherwise known as the female version of Thor, and they go on this mission to stop Korg before this whole thing that he's doing goes to complete chaos. Now, I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok just took away all the seriousness that happened in the first two movies and just made it completely fun and entertaining and ridiculous in the best possible way. And it was a hell of a lot of fun. I can say that is definitely one of the best in the MCU, and it's definitely the best of the Thor movies. Unfortunately, this movie isn't nearly as good as that film. However, I will say though, I did have myself a pretty fun time throughout most of the movie. Easily the best way I can say this is, it's fun, emotional, but at the same time, kind of feels much of the same as the last movie. The only difference is Loki isn't in this one this time because of what happened with him. And Jane is back once again. And do they get back together? I can't spoil that for you. But I can say that Thor and Jane are great together in this movie. They have a lot of chemistry. And that's one thing I actually do like about the Thor movies, is their relationship. It was kind of a shame that they broke up in the last movie, but seeing them together in this movie feels like a blessing to see, because I think they're one of the best couples in the MCU, and the fact that he's a god, she's a human, and the fact that they live in both different worlds, them being together once again in this movie, but like I mentioned before, I can't really say if they get back together or not. That would be a spoiler. But the movie is fun, okay? The movie is very well paced. It's 2 hours long. It doesn't go over the 2-hour limit. And the movie does have a lot of corny jokes that I think fans are either going to really appreciate or get really annoyed by, because this movie has quite a bit of them. And the movie doesn't always go for a very serious route, just like the last movie. But there are times when the movie does get a lot more serious, especially when we figure out a little bit more on why Jane is back and fighting alongside with Thor. And it kind of makes the comedy and all that stuff go down a little bit. Not necessarily sure that was a good thing or a bad thing, but this movie certainly isn't perfect because, like I mentioned before, for me, I do kind of feel like a lot of the humor does feel a bit stale in this movie, because I feel like the MCU is getting far more comedic, and while it's not always right to go completely serious, it's also not right to fully go into comedic territory either. I mean, the movie's fun, and there's a lot of action to it, but I feel like for a superhero movie, it definitely needs a lot more than just the humor and the action, because at some times, it kind of just feels a bit like Ragnarok 1.5 a bit. Well, not always. I mean, the first act definitely feels that way, although the movie is very well paced, at least after like the first 5 or 8 minutes or so. Then it definitely brings you all the action you could have possibly wanted. But at the same time, I don't really feel like the story and the villain is very strong here. But I guess Taika Waititi is going in for more of the humor than he is the drama, because the movie isn't fully depressing. I mean, there is definitely some emotion to this film that might get you a bit teary-eyed. But again, further in spoilers, which it's best explained if you either see the movie or watch the spoiler videos for yourself if you really do not care. The movie didn't have as much of an impact on me because it just, I don't know. I just didn't like it as much as the last movie. And the last movie had so much going for it. I mean, the movie was just doing its own thing. It was just being a flat out fun time, while this one is being both a fun time and a serious time at the same time. Also, there are some times where the characters aren't always that smart. There are times where they just kind of feel like idiots. Not always, because, superheroes can be idiots, but they can also be geniuses at the same time. I mean, they're not doing stupid stuff, but they just kind of act sort of like idiots. Not always, though. Also, if you expect to see the Guardians of the Galaxy fight alongside Thor, then you're kind of just out of your mind because they're barely in the movie. So that's kind of a disappointment, too. But in the end, guys, I still had a pretty solid time with Thor Love and Thunder, okay? The love and the thunder is mostly there, and Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman have great chemistry together, and everybody else, Taika Waititi, Christian Bale, everybody is phenomenal in the movie, and a lot of people say that the MCU has a lot of bad CGI. That's one thing I forgot to mention. There is some pretty bad CGI in this movie, but it's not always terrible. I mean, there is some noticeable bad CGI, like monsters and stuff, but, it didn't really bother me that much. I mean, yeah, you can complain about it, but hey, even some of the best MCUs don't always have the best CGI, but I don't always complain about the CGI. I mean, some of it's bad, some of it's good, but it didn't really bother me that much, but I could see why it bothers others. But like I mentioned before, I had a fun time with this movie. It might not be as good as the last movie, but in terms of its direction, I think it still has that Taika Waititi feel. And it's still great to see, the return of Taika Waititi doing more of the MCU, specifically with Thor. And this is not going to be the last time we see Thor, apparently. Yeah, he's definitely going to be coming back. But if you expect a fun time, a 2-hour thrill ride filled with comedic jokes, emotion, and all that, then you're going to get that here. If you're expecting a memorable villain and story, you're not going to get it that much. But if you expect more of Ragnarok, you're definitely going to get that. So I kind of still do like how the movie isn't as serious as the first two Thor movies, because that's kind of what the start of the MCU was mostly best known for, was the seriousness. But they still have seriousness in these movies. Spider-Man No Way Home had a lot of it. And though this film is serious and ridiculous at the same time, it doesn't always work for me, but I can still say it had enough love and enough thunder to mostly keep me from having a terrible time, which I didn't. A bit of a disappointment, definitely kind of a downgrade from the last movie, but still a pretty fun time. No doubt it's going to make a crap ton of money this weekend. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.